is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
See, how far so far? It feels like every democracy day we try to look at the gains of democracy, if we have any whatsoever, if we've covered ground, if we've achieved much, if people are reaping and enjoying the dividends of democracy. It just feels like every democracy day, that's one key critical area that we look at. What have we gained? What have we benefited? As if to say, if we haven't gained much, then we might as well revert back to military. One would say the best military, the best or the worst democracy is better than the worst military because of that liberty, that freedom that it gives citizens to participate and engage in the democratic process. But it's not an excuse to give us anything less than what is expected of the country and by the people in a democracy. So it's another bookmark for us, occasion to look back and to help us sort of sometimes, when you want to go forward, it's like, what do they call this race? You take some step back and it helps to propel you forward. So let's hope that this is one of those moments where it will help propel us into what the dividends and the hope that we aspire for in Nigeria will be like. So welcome to the Democracy edition of the program. My name is Kimberly Nwachukwu, call me Kim, the Oracle, the Digital Oracle, OTF, Madam Speaker, the Fellow, and Ochanyawa of Nigeria Info, and I'll say yes to them all. Itodo.
Welcome to you. Hope you had a good weekend. We're back here on Monday, and someone asked me a question. It's a very common question, but it's really important to be honest as to how you feel. How are you doing, really? And it got me thinking, am I really good? There's so much happening right now, and it's important that we look out for each other. But speaking about democracy and the fact that everyone has got different definitions, and if it benefits you or your clique or those that you assume is working well for everybody else because it's working for you. But there are people who do not agree. There are people who have varying views as to what democracy is, and if it did, there's been any difference since we got into democratic rule in 1999. And the president, has constantly reiterated that Nigerians would reap the dividends of democracy. And do we really know what it is? Would we be able to tell a difference when those dividends start coming, to light? Or would it just be business as usual because we're used to things being the way they are right now in Nigeria?
Oh, well,
so,
we can only hope for the best. Well, we've got our guest with us on the roundtable as we start off the conversation on the show today, looking at some of the big stories driving conversation. And we've got Mr. Chuks Akunna with us in the studio. He's a journalist, executive director of the Authority. Sir, we're delighted to have you on this Democracy edition of the program. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Delighted. Happy Democracy Day to you. But just before we get to talk democracy matter and other Niger issues, there's a pesky little problem that we're debating, and that's the cookathon that is going on. Like, I don't know, sir, do you by any chance want to set a record, chef? Because you never can tell. Everybody, all of a sudden, is now a chef and wants to beat record. Hilda started it. Then we have another chef, Dami. Then there's another chef. Then I hear there's one from Owerri who is thinking of a 150
Ibadan as well.
So everybody is springing up and wanting to set a new record all of a sudden.
It's not, it's a very common thing in Nigeria.
Yeah?
It's a very common thing in Nigeria. People seem to be asleep until they're roused from the sleep. You see, like Abuja, you see when Prince Nicholas Ukachukwu, who was a House of Reps member at the time, started real estate business. He built Prince and Princess, and before you could say Jack Robinson, everybody's now an estate developer. You see, people build malls. Before you know, everybody's building malls. Because Nigerians, not just Nigerians, Africans are very lazy. They don't think. So they wait for people to think for them. Then they are jolted from their slumber, and then. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's like saying why the Swiss. Why are they dominant wristwatch makers? Or saying why are Japanese dominant auto makers?
Yeah.
And so it's what you have that you work on. So if we can't play squash, racket, we can't play. You can judo. We can't swim. At least we can cook. And I want to draw us to the controversy that was that reached at a time on CNN about which country has the best jollof rice between Nigeria and Ghana. So if you're talking about cuisine, Nigeria is one country that really stands out because of our diversity.
Yeah.
And there's no way you go in the world that you not talk about Nigerian cuisine. So if Nigerians want to beat each other in world records, welcome. Like I said earlier, the Jews, they have this saying that the answer to a question is another question. The Jews question the status quo. That's why they make progress. You see, if you ask, there are questions we ask or we used to ask when we were children, they will tell you to shut up.
Yeah.
That's the African way. But the Jews, when you answer a question, another question comes up. That's why
continue to interrogate things.
Yes, that's why you see like the internet. Like when I joined this day in 1998, we were printed, there was a newspaper that was colored in Nigeria. We were all printing black and white. And then later, Heritage Press in Abuja started printing color. But we had to we'll fly half of the papers to Abuja, then move half to Lagos to be able to set them as color. Then we started with what you call a global village. It was a software. It was dial-up. You had to, when we prepare our page in Abuja, we will use telephone line to dial to send to Lagos. Then we're writing stories longhand with fax. So if you don't question the status quo, if you don't say, how can we do this better?
Yeah.
So it's welcome. I don't think there's any need for that controversy. We should encourage, if 100 Nigerians want to hold that record for an hour, and beat themselves, they're welcome. And it's better than breaking the world record for advanced fee fraud.
There are 1,000 things that anybody else could have done. Yeah. Not that one. 1,000 things.
No, 1,000 things. But if we, see, there's what you call. It's like talking about sports. Like Americans are very good at basketball. Then South Americans and Europeans are very good at football, soccer. So if Americans want to break the world record in, say, tennis, in, say, ping pong, it's very difficult. But if Chinese want to do that, it's easier for them. Because we all have our space. It's like, what do you call this? This game, you play, Russians play a lot. What do you call it?
Russians?
Yes, they're very good at this indoor. Not Scrabble, chess.
Oh, chess.
Chess. So we all have. If you want to buy a designer shirt or designer shoes, you wouldn't buy American. You wouldn't buy Japanese. But if you want to buy very good cars, you probably buy Japanese cars. But if you're talking about very good shirts, or belts or shoes, my brother,
so
Italian. Italians and Spanish.
Made in Nigeria is what we go for.
That's what we encourage. Food. Good.
All right. Okay, if you say so. I wish all the people and those who are even thinking of it who have just suddenly had the epiphany that I can actually cook for 20 hours or 200 hours. I wish you the very best, but it will always be on record that Linda was one of those who stood out and has gained so much traction. And I think for her, the fact that she's even a pace setter to do something that other people feel like, let's see how we can beat this record. Exactly. It's already on record. It's a record on his own.
Yeah.
That started.
She opened the floodgate
of record breaking.
Yeah.
Congratulations to all those who are trying to beat the record, nonetheless. But let's come back home to Nigeria. 23 years of unbroken democracy. Well, on one hand, that's something to celebrate, given the fact that we're in the region, the western part of Africa, where we've seen interruption of democracy even in recent time, as recent as last year and 2 years back, where you see the military trying to hijack a government. And we'll talk about the case of Sudan. They've not been able to resolve their issue. They had a full-blown war on their hand, disrupting democracy, military hijacking it, and the power tussle. So for Nigeria, that is something on one hand. Before we get into what the president said or didn't say, it's an achievement, right? The fact that 23 years we've allowed democracy go uninterrupted.
Yes, but I slightly differ. I prefer to call it civilian rule, civil rule.
Okay.
Civil rule.
Why exactly?
Because even though one can also argue that democracy is a process, it's not a destination. There's no perfect democracy anywhere in the world. Let's also consider that.
Yeah.
But then we have thought that there's for social scientists and natural scientists, there's what you call the theory of evolution. You assume that when things that come after their progenitors tend to be better. Like you cannot. My parents, my late parents, apparently my life is better than theirs in a way because of what we passed through. They passed. They were in the villages. A lot of things. Ignorance and stuff. So we had the privilege of drinking milk, and not seeing egg as luxury. Then those days in 1930s when my parents were born, if you caught eating egg, you'd be flogged, because they to assume that anybody who ate eggs was going to steal. Like the gizzard of a chicken, it's only for the father, and things like that. So, that said, we have thought that from 1999 things are going to get better, especially with our electoral process. But you see, even today, to underscore that sore point, the president, the newly sworn president, also made allusion to that, about how bitter those who lost still feel about the process. So if what we did in 1993, June 12th, at the time they were able to conduct an exercise that was adjudged to be the freest and the fairest at the time. So we as civilians and as Democrats, and with the privilege of having several processes, built on several processes, especially 2015 when Jonathan, conceded defeat. We have thought that Jonathan's concession of defeat was going to open the floodgates of a better process. But sadly, 2019, we dipped. Because if you want to talk about the perception of free and fair polls, the direct reflection is in a number of litigations that trail such exercise. If you recall, Jonathan's in 2015, after Jonathan opened the floodgate of congratulating the winner, every other person took a cue.
And considered quickly.
It's considered, because the process at the time was considered largely free and fair. You tend to accept or swallow something you believe was fair, a process or a contest. If you believe somebody cheated, you want to protest. But if, like in justice, in law court, they say justice not only should be done, but it should be seen to be done. So perception, there's a very thin line between perception and reality. So even like my people from Southeast Igbo, they say when you remove a gnat, or when you remove a bug from a dog, you show that bug to the dog, so the dog doesn't think that you merely pinched it. Yes, that perception is very, very. So you're trying to kill the bug on the dog. You're trying to help the dog, but if the dog misconstrues that action, it could turn and bite you, or you feel very, very bad about it. So no matter how well, and it's the same thing about government, about those who have been entrusted with the responsibility of leadership. No matter how well conceived they are, no matter how well intentioned they are, they should give us the privilege of also carrying us along, of also explain to us. You go to a doctor, yes. If I had my daughter who once went for a medical procedure, so the doctor had to sit us down to explain to us, I mean that's even though the doctor knows it's best for her, I knew that it was best for her. We have to sit down and say, see, we have to go through this XYZ. Someone will do this for X number of days. You will feel this pain. But thereafter, it's her body. But you have to also explain to her, you're doing that to make her feel good. So, but here, sadly, we have a situation where people say there's no going back. People who were supposed to have given entrusted our mandate, they say, we've taken a decision, there's no going back. And you ask yourself, at whose behest are you holding power? If you read in political science, if you read the origins of government, people came together and said, okay, let's look for a Leviathan, let's look for a sovereign. We relinquish our rights to the sovereign. In return, the sovereign protects us. But here,
as a social contract.
Yeah, exactly. That's social contract theory. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Thank you very much. So, but here, we forcefully, our rights are forcefully taken from us and handed over to the sovereign. And the sovereign doesn't care about us. I'm not talking about the presidency, even the states. It's a problem. Local government, you look at what's happening in Abuja, you demolishing Area 10, that's UTC, instant. you're going to build it back for Nigerians, but then you should explain to them. You should make them understand why it's good for them. I mean,
perhaps understand. Okay, this was not meant for this. This is what we intended to do with this.
For X, Y, Z number of days or weeks or months. You'll be inconvenienced. But please, let's bear this. I mean, nobody. It's like when you are building roads. If you live in an area where the roads are bad, anytime contracts are awarded, that you see laterite mounds, you see stones on the road, you see people are inconvenienced, but you see people will bear, because people are reasonable. People are reasonable. They will say, okay, at this thing, that at least when this thing is finished, when they finish this, we're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's it. So talking about Democracy Day, it's not enough to call something a name to like. I'll go back to the Igbo. They say any name you give a dog, the dog will bear. If you call a dog Billy, 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 after some time the dog, serious.
The response to that, yeah.
Gets used to it. So, and William Shakespeare said that a rose by any other name will still smell as sweet, and the hood doesn't make the monk. So if you call, it's not enough to call to say Democracy Day. What is the symbolism? Abiola, who gave his life for not only Abiola, his wife too died. A lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people. How about people like Professor Humphrey Nwosu? Have we sat back to give him accolades for, even though, because from events that trailed the June 12th elections and the annulment, have we sat down to say this man was a man of courage? To have conducted, because apparently the military at the time did not want Abiola. I mean, so for a person like Humphrey Nwosu to have conducted such an exercise, surrounded by military officers, they are not civilians, we should also give kudos to him. Because when we're celebrating the Abiola, we should also celebrate the man who revived the process. And people like Mahmoud Yakub, would the same be said of a person like Mahmoud Yakub today. Look at Mahmoud Jega. People are
Atahiru
Jega. People are full of praises for him because of the way he conducted the exercise. And then when we moved from 2015 to 2019, we have thought that, and you see the man stepped aside. When the ovation was loudest, he stepped aside. And then in came Mahmoud Yakub. And look at what Nigerians are saying about him.
Well, let's take a break and we'll take you up on that, what they're saying after this break. Stay with us.
New shows, new hosts.
I keep my sunny side up so they can see me from above. I keep my sunny side up. No more running from the love, no more, no more. I keep my sunny side up so they can see me from above. I keep my sunny side up. No more running from the love. Yeah, hey, pour me up some OJ, have it fresh squeeze, sizzle up some pico and some bay leaves. Make sure that it's on low. Let the top breathe, let the top breathe. Gotta let the top breathe. Crack another egg on it. Me and you could make the best omelet. Yeah, never seasoned, so it's our timing. You can smell the good vibes rising. I keep my sunny side up so they can see me from above. I keep my sunny side up. No more running from the love. No more, no more. I keep my sunny side up so they can see me from above. I keep my sunny side up. No more running from the love. It goes sweet like sugar, smooth like cream, warm like the steam rising on my caffeine. Cozy as a coupe, had to get you in the loop. Cooking in the kitchen, all I really wanna do is crack another egg on it. Yeah, me and you can make the best omelet. never season, so it's our timing. You can smell the good vibes rising. I keep my sunny side up.
This is Nigeria If. This is Nigeria If.
Looking at the fact that we have uninterrupted democracy since 1999. However, the reason why we have today as Democracy Day is what happened in 1994, how the election 93 was annulled and MKO Abiola incarcerated, and eventually, was he killed? Did he die? Well, the wife also was killed. And today just feels like a day to talk about and interrogate quite a lot of things. Now, before the break, sir, you were saying it's a little different this time around in terms of you're looking at the quality of the election and the perception that Nigerians hold about how it was conducted.
Yes. I finished secondary school in 1986. So 1993, I was an adult. So I knew what happened. And don't forget that a former central bank governor, Sylvester Ugo, was a running mate to Bashir Tofa. And Abiola was Muslim, his running mate was Muslim. And people from Kano, if that Bashir Tofa was from Kano, but people voted for Abiola extensively, massively in Kano. Even the southeast where Sylvester, people did not say, that should Bashir Tofa become president and Igbo man was going to become vice president. They voted massively for Abiola. You understand? So it's a very big lesson. But look at what we're talking about now. 30 years later, we're talking about Christian, Muslim ticket. So, it calls to question it questions the achievements we think we've made. Are we progressing? Are we regressing? I spoke about evolution. How far have we evolved? If after 30 years we're talking about Muslim ticket, look at now. Look at what the very unfortunate thing the vice president was said to have said yesterday, that the most incompetent Christian as Senate president is better than the most competent Muslim, because it would be wrong to have a Muslim president, a Muslim vice president, and a Muslim Senate president. You see how bad things have become. So now we're viewing officers from religious prison, but what we didn't do in 1993. Because had we done that in 1993, Abiola wouldn't have secured votes. Look at what happened in the last elections. The whole of Southeast, most parts of the South, and North Central voted Peter Obi. Apparently because of the way we become very, very religiously divided. People were very angry, not because they didn't think that Tinubu was competent, because they felt aggrieved that his running mate was Muslim. And nobody questioned the competence of Kashim Shettima, because he did very well as governor in Borno State. But because of the optics, because of what happened, the immediate past government, because of the way President Muhammadu Buhari appeared to shield his own people, who are majority of them are Muslims, and the way his body language, and I tell people that I don't care if a Fulani man is president for 50 years. We had a Shagari who was president, and Shagari's time, a very young Igbo man, Dr. Chubukaidu, was his political advisor, and it wasn't the kind of advisors you have now. Now you have an advisor in name on paper. But the people who do the advice, they are from Daura or from Iragbiji in Osho State. You can have people who look at someone like a newly appointed SGF Senator George Akume. Okay. He was Minister of Special Duties. And Special Duties is used to be a very powerful office until President Muhammadu Buhari.
Is it SGF or Chief of Staff?
No, SGF. Okay, is SGF. Chief of Staff is Femi Gbaja. Yeah. And until President Muhammadu Buhari emerged on the horizon and started to take all the flesh in the office of the what they call special duties and hand it over to this woman from Zamfara, this lady from Zamfara State. So what are we saying? It's very sad. For some of us who have witnessed elections in Nigeria, it's grieving, because if Nigeria is good, if Nigeria should Nigeria get better, we'll all benefit. Should Nigeria get worse, we'll all suffer.
All right.
But I need to get into your thoughts real quick before I move on from this. So you made reference to the VP's statement and the need for a Christian representation.
Yes, no matter how dumb the person is.
But that's not saying the person is dumb anyway, but just to get an understanding. No matter how dumb the person is. But in a bid for representation, because there's been this talk about Islamization and people are getting a bit uncomfortable with that conversation. Is it not important that there's a balance in terms of the religious representation up there? Also, let's have you speak on the expectations of a democratic government, because it's as though we do not really understand what we should expect. It's been over 23 years, and are we making progress in any way, or are we just stagnant and hoping that things change in the nearest future?
No, let me start with the last. I wish we were I wish we were stagnant. We're not even stagnant. We're regressing. And I say this with every sense of responsibility. And going forward, I'm very scared about what the future holds for Nigeria, because the kind of persons in power. You have an Akpabio, a Senate president, people who are very, very intolerant. You need to know how this will work in their states as governor, know. So because you see, the morning they say tells the day. If, like in the Bible, Lord Jesus Christ said, if you're not faithful in little things, if you are Speaker of the House of Assembly in your state and you're very ruthless, you dissent, dissent. Because see, people don't understand that if for those of us whose background is sociology and social sciences, there's what Karl Marx, and there's what Karl Marx, there is theory, there's what they call the interplay of forces. That is synthesis that conflict is the engine of progress. People think that social order is the engine of progress. No, anywhere you have social order, society does not make progress. I'll give us examples. Nigeria, before the Civil War, I had a very infantile air force. And there was 2 or 3 planes. We didn't have an air force. So it was Civil War that brought out a very strong fighting force. And if you look at it, you see that countries that have done very well. You see that countries that have very hostile environments are countries that do very well. Japan. You see that when you want to buy a car, you say the most fuel efficient cars are Japanese cars. Why are they Japanese cars? Because they don't have crude oil. So for them, they were researching on how to make cars that will run on water, because it's better for them because they don't have crude oil. You understand? So it's challenges that you have that bring out the best in you. So if, as we are, we don't have these challenges, which some of our political leaders think is anathema. If you tell them, like, I'll give us an example. When I was Chief Press Secretary in Anambra State in 2003 to Governor Chris Ngige, when the tribunal threw him out, the MD of the state radio station called me up and said, our Chief Press Secretary, this story, how do we handle this story? Should we kill the story? And I told him, I said, you're stupid, sir. A story that is all over the world, on the net, CNN, everywhere. What difference will it make if you? But you see, is that self-censorship? He wants to be seen to be loyal to Ngige. I won't run a story that is harmful to Ngige. But you see, that is what kills or stifles democracy in Africa. You see, if I was a presidential aide today, even those days, I encourage dissent. Why are stations like NTA and FRCN struggling today? Why are people not willing to listen to these stations anymore? Because they feel that they are propaganda arm of government.
Well, they listen to them, maybe not half as.
No. Why? If you look at viewership, maybe people in their 70s and 60s because of their loyalty to the brand. But the issue is this: when imagine bringing guests who are critical of government to an NTA station, for instance, and they're allowed to criticize government. Whenever, you see, they forget that this will be the ingredient for them to even propagate their propaganda. Because if you allow people with the same
diversity of opinion,
if you allow people to come to criticize the president openly, and the decision is not shut down, these people are very serious. So tomorrow, if you bring somebody to sing the praise of the president, people will listen. They will believe. They'll say it's credible. Even it happens in our newspapers. If you write about somebody, please, they say, this one, wiki tabloid, this, they just brand, and people will not even read that. You understand? And like for broadcast organizations, for media organizations, it's the readership, it's the audience that gives them the power, because you have the audience, then you run ad, people come to advertise because people want to reach the audience. So here, but given our set of Democrats, quote and unquote, they feel that if you allow anybody, I'll give us an example. There was a security chief who, there was an election in a part of Nigeria, I wouldn't call the place, and he told us his story. And people from that place who were in government, the last government, came to him and said, President said this, remove this, remove that, and he obliged them. But he was a very smart man. You know what he did? He called, they said they didn't want this person, they didn't want this officer, they didn't want this officer. And the man said, fine, remove them. Bring your own men. They brought their own list. And this boss was very smart. He called them and said, well, you are going to XYZ state. See the money, see your money. Then come and sign here. Because the president has said that you should not give any undue advantage to any of the candidates there. And they did that. Of course, the party of the president lost. So they came to the villa and was telling the president, you see, we told you this man, PDP appointed him, he's loyal to PDP, he's this, he's that. You see how they think. Because if you are appointed, and as if you're a chief of army staff, you are appointed by, say, President Tinubu, they expect his loyalty to be to Tinubu, not to Nigeria. You are DGSSS, your loyalty should be to, his whims and caprices. And that's why agencies like the EFCC, they are toothless bulldog. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. Because
they will not agree with you because
from inception.
of
From inception, they were set up as the attack dog of the president, Obasanjo at the time. So it's not.
Well, they were set up as an anti-graft agency to fight corruption and corrupt practices.
ICPC was set up initially. It was first set up. But because the man, the late jurist, Akombi, he was a retired judge of the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal. So the president, Obasanjo wanted to use him. The man said, no, you can't use me. So the president said, okay. That was why he dumped ICPC. If you look at ICPC and EFCC, they have similar mandates. No, they have similar mandates. So he went and created EFCC, brought a young police officer, Nuhu Ribado, and started going after those governors who, because of his second term. I mean, that's the truth. No matter how well we disagree, but that's the truth. I was a political reporter. I mean, they know, I was close to them. I know these things. So, and it has continued in that mode. I'll give us an example. There was this EFCC officer who later became an EFCC chairman. So one day he came and said, I said, how far?
We know the chairman, so I'm already trying to say, okay.
I won't call him. Okay. He came and told me that. So I said, okay, what happened to this investigation? He said they had to stop it too. That because when they went to arrest the man, now some of the monies the man shared got to some powerful persons in the presidency. So they said, no, off your mic. So that's the problem. If we don't build strong institutions, look at road safety, established in the military. Look at what that's become. Look at NAFTAC. I can go on and on.
But just because there have been peculiar situations in some of these agencies, case in point, the EFCC, like you mentioned, doesn't mean it's not achieving the aim for which it was established in the first place.
No, I'll give us an example. When Governor Emefiele was running off his term in office, EFCC started issuing statements. When Governor Beno was running off his term of office, you remember, EFCC started issuing statements that they will arrest him and all those things.
But isn't it because of the immunity that they enjoy?
No, fine. But we have people we also have former governors who are from the ruling party on whom tons of petitions have been written, and the EFCC is pretending as if they not doing anything about that. No, that's the truth. Because you see, look at what's happening to past governor of Zamfara State. You see, because apparently he's in good books of the government in power. Look at about 40 vehicles were reportedly recovered from his house. I mean, that's a case in point.
But that's also a case they can argue and say.
No. Even the Akpabio we said. Don't forget Akpabio was minority leader in the Senate. So somebody kept telling me that Akpabio was going to join APC. I said, no, it's not possible. Even my newspaper gave Akpabio opposition leader of the year award. So now looking back, we're looking very stupid because the lady told me that this award when I give him no go work because EFCC they are on him. They are blackmailing him. They're blackmailing him. That he would join APC. I told her no, that it wasn't possible. So now I've learned never to say impossible on Nigerian politicians. So that's the truth. Because you see, not only Akpabio, that is what is the tool. Because I once met a politician a long time ago, about 20 years ago. He told me that anytime I become president, I should empower my enemy. That what they do here, if somebody runs against you in an election, you become governor, you become president, you go after him. Go after the fetus in his wife's womb. So you kill everything about it so it doesn't come. You don't give him.
Okay, not kill like literally.
No. Kill as in you remove all the oxygen, all the
political.
all the financial oxygen. If he's importing cars,
okay.
if he's importing rice or soybeans or something, ban that product. Just make sure that you cripple so that then, if possible, look at the states. That's why you see in all the states in Nigeria. I'm not talking about one state. You see a governor. Okay, look at Cross River for instance. He was in PDP. Cross River was PDP state from 1999, if you recall. Then I did defect to APC, and now it's an APC state.
But what's wrong with defecting? I mean, if your ideology shifts, you're free to move to a different party that supports what you believe in.
But you see, the problem
But is it about ideology?
No, it's not about ideology because one, there's no ideology. Because you ask me what's the ideology, Somebody had once boasted to me, and I'm going senator, that a political party is a vehicle to take you to a destination. That if you're going to Lagos and you go to the airport, you booked Air Peace and there's a problem. You jump on Air Nigeria. You jump on
there's no Air Nigeria.
There's no Air Nigeria. You jump on what do you call it? You jump on United Nigeria, or you get Air Max. What do you call it?
Any of the other airlines.
And you say the important thing is for you to get to Lagos. When you're in Lagos, you say it doesn't matter, and that's the truth. Because you see, there are people who, like Bauchi, for instance, several years ago, Governor Issa Yuguda, he became governor on the platform of the AMPP. Suddenly, Yar'Adua becomes president. Then he marries Yar'Adua's daughter and defects to PDP. But of course, people told him, no, you can't do that. So when he was leaving, he wanted to come to the Senate. People said, no, you're not a man of integrity. So they didn't, and he lost the Senate. Look at Benue State now. You see, going forward, everybody in Benue will become APC. It's politics of bread and butter.
It's the kind of politics we practice.
It's politics of bread and butter. Because you see, when I was younger, I was in Kwara State, and then I was governor. Like your governor necessarily didn't make you the richest man in your state. Jack Onde as governor, his house was total crime. He was living in his house. But today, once you become governor in your state, you automatically by default become the richest man in your state. That's the truth. So because you see the kind of money political office holders control.
But maybe not Lagos State, because Sanwo-Olu is not richer than Dangote.
Dangote is not from Lagos.
No, I know.
Dangote is not.
But then I can't think of anyone who's richer than Dangote.
But Tinubu was governor of Lagos State, and he's represented to one of the richest men in Nigeria. We all know that. I mean, let's not. Wike, I can mention them. Akpabio, because you look at their lifestyle.
Well, it just tells you that they are poor people. The inequality gap is the function of
yeah, it is. And now, because the most important business is government.
Seem more
Those
lucrative.
Days, if you graduated, you got like 3 or 4 appointments, jobs, offers, then you choose one. But now you graduated, you're a governor or a senator or somebody. You will never get appointed anyway.
Well, we can only pray that Nigeria gets better. We've seen comments coming in, and a lot of people are itching to contribute also via telephone. We'll get a few of their thoughts and continue our conversation. But let's get some input in from phone lines and WhatsApp. You can call us up. Oh, we're on Facebook and YouTube, just so you know, at Nigeria Info Abuja. You can follow us on at Facebook, YouTube, at Nigeria Info Abuja. Leave your comments there also. Oh, we're not on Facebook, yeah?
No, I'm trying to check that. Just on YouTube for now.
It's just on YouTube for now. So check us on YouTube at Nigeria Info Abuja. But let's look at some of the comments on WhatsApp.
All right, and this one right here says, it's good to compete. Okay, this is reacting to the Hilda story. All right, this says, good afternoon. I want to disagree with your guest. This year's election was one of the best ever in the history of Nigeria. If we rooted for any candidate and the person ended up not winning, does that mean the election that brought another candidate on board is not credible? Oludade Abiodun asking that question. Happy Democracy Day. The ultimate question of the day coming from the great beyond, sent to the president by MKO. This is the question. Is the process that brought you to the highest seat in the presidency democratic? What is happening today might not be the same as the goal of June 12. Mohammed. And nothing has been learned and no progress has been made since the demise of Abiola, and no one has been achieved. If you listen to the campaign jingles of Abiola, you realize that nothing has been done. Some of the promises he made during his campaign are still the same things the current political leaders are promising Nigerians 30 years after. May God help our country. Steve B. I listened to your guest, and from his position on our democracy and Nigerian leaders, what I can make of his opinion is that the only solution to save the soul of Nigeria's democracy is to deport all Nigerians from the country and import new sets of human beings. Simply put, it's ridiculous when people don't see anything good about the leaders. And his opinions on Akpabio, I think it's his personal views that doesn't make or hold any water. Opinions are indeed very cheap. Balumi from Wusetu. And Mr. Godwin from Area 11 says, on the dominance of Muslims in political office, Peter was voted massively in Southeast, South, North Central and Lagos was not because of religious affiliation, but competence, capacity and capability, as well as past records. That's what he's saying.
All right, let's go to the phone line, 0700 951 0000. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, King. Good afternoon, Itodo.
Welcome to you.
And good afternoon to your guest.
Thank you very much.
For me personally, I think I want to agree with your guest in everything he has said. It's the truth. Even though I didn't start it with him, but the few ideas now that he put on the table, they are very correct. Because if you look at it, if we're talking about democracy today, it's true, they're talking about Abiola. And like you rightly said, what about the Hoffman, the man who dared, you know what it means, dared a military president to announce a result that he was told not to do. And if I tell you this story now, you'll be shocked. That I as small as I was then, I witnessed it and saw this son who was tall, huge, and a smaller guy like Akile jumping up to give him 2 double slaps before they carry him and throw him at the boot of a car. Honestly, there are people who are supposed to be celebrating in this country. And if you want me to tell you about this democracy, I would say that nothing has changed. It's a Muslim ticket that people rejected. The same thing is what is there now. And at the end of the day, if you look at that time till now, what we are seeing now, it's even worse. It's even worse. There's no democracy. And the good men are nowhere found. Because the evil ones will not allow the good ones to fight.
All right, thank you, Tyra.
Welcome to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Nigerian Info. It's Jonathan calling from Sabose.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
To me, we are not enjoying anything in this democracy apart from freedom of expression, freedom of information that President Goodluck signed into power. You understand? We don't enjoy the democracy is just like it's just for politicians and the rest of them. If you are talking about infrastructures, you understand? When a governor or a president consults rules, it is their duty to do so. We didn't supposed to clap for them at all, or we didn't supposed to tell them congratulations. It is their duty. That's why they are elect. So we are far away from democracy. Thank you very much.
All right. Welcome to you.
All right, let's see. WhatsApp, you can also reach us via WhatsApp on 0809993037.
Welcome to you. Hello? Can you move away from your device, please? Good afternoon.
Yes, very much far. This is Balitaza.
Welcome to you.
I greet your guests, Kim and Todo.
Welcome, Barrister.
What I want to say is that, yes, I appreciate. But what I want to say is this. As we are celebrating Democracy Day today, I think what we should do, or we should be doing, is that we should find ways of reforming what we call democracy in Nigeria. We have a situation in which people say they belong to this party. In fact, there are no ideology. And the next day, they are going to another party. Is it done in America like that? People like Clinton has been a Democrat all his life. There is no way Clinton can become a Republican. It's not possible because of his principles. But what about the case in Nigeria? Is it right? Then another issue is that of accountability. You occupy public office. Understand? And then they just go home like that. Cut home. The money you have been able to make. I want a situation in which 6 months to the expiration of anybody's tenure, you should begin to give an account of all the expenditure you made in office, so that people will not be wary of going to public office or even contesting, because they will need to give an account. Understand? You see, there are many areas. I just mentioned 2. We must reform our democracy so that we can, attain our destined height in this world, regional warfare. And I know it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to you.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Please turn off your radio.
Okay. My little opinion on this issue.
What's your name?
My name is Naifai. I'm calling from Matama.
Go ahead.
Don't be offended with this word. We are not practicing democracy. First of all, you have to arrest this annex man. The thing where you do good.
What did you do exactly?
Now, election, not be rigging. This one win election.
How was the election rigged? Define exactly.
They said in the federal capital, every party must get 25%. What was the percentage of APC?
Oh, that's your argument for rigging. I see. Quite interesting. Fine, we need to run for a commercial break. I just wanted to find out what aspect he perceived and interpreted as rigging, and he said it's 25%, but the court will interpret what that means. Okay, let's go on the break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.